All you songbirds, thanks for joining us this week on Tail Feather, powered by Liars Not Alcoholic. I'm Nick Crutchfield, your host here at Tail Feather. We've got a really fun episode this week. I've got an old friend. He's very skilled in spinning things round and round, right, baby. And we're going to talk about the intersections of no and low consumption models, drinking, lifestyles, and how that intersects with the music industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, a background that is storied in many fables and legends, our one and only Mr. Rob Nesta. Rob, can you please tell our viewers and listeners more about yourself and why we're talking today?
Well, I've got a long story, so I'll keep it as short as possible. But
Make it as long as you want, my friend.
the reason that we're talking now is I got my career started in music in San Francisco back in 1999, 2001, and it was a different era back then, as we all know. But fast forward to today, I actually work in the non-alc industry and the beverage industry, and that's kind of how our lives intersected prior to the non-alc side, but now we are on the non-alc side together. But it's fun because I've seen the evolution of music throughout these years, whether it's club venues, concert venues, festivals, and I've seen a lot of friends, but also a lot of cohorts that I've worked with in the industry kind of blend their lives over. And now, as I was just watching earlier today, a little story, what happened, I guess 4 years ago now, COVID happened and we all had to reset. And during that reset, a lot of things coming out of that shifted. And I don't like to say pivot anymore. That's my least favorite word. But the industries have all kind of coincided and done that at the same time. And that's just a little bit about me. But, music has always stayed in the front. And, as Nick got to see a couple years ago at Tales of the Cocktail, I made that transition back in, and that kind of lit the fire and started me pushing my music again. Not the same kind of music I've played in the past. Now it's a little bit different. So we'll talk about that later if we want to. But other than that, let's jump on and talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Right on. Well, to give the listeners an even deeper background on myself, because I haven't shared my entire story, that's something that will unfold, I'm assuming, naturally and organically through these episodes this season and next. My bartending career, and I was a bartender for a really long time, my bartending career started in the live music industry. So I started working at a concert venue at the ripe old age of 22 years old. I'd done some other bartending stuff prior to this, but nothing as serious as what I was jumping into. So this venue is located in Norfolk, Virginia, pretty close to where I'm from. 2,000 person venue. It is absolutely a machine. Like 300 shows a year. You get really good at reading people's lips. You get really good at how you move and your body mechanics. And I'm kind of lucky that was one of my very first ones, because it taught me that bartending was way more physical in that type of environment than maybe in a neighborhood bar or maybe in a cocktail lounge, right? Like I worked at all three, but the venue was definitely more physically demanding than any of the other ones. So at a very pivotal moment in my career, I decided that I wasn't going to be able to drink while I worked. I wasn't going to be able to go out with the boys down the street before we reported in for our shift, right? Because I knew that in order for me to ring the highest I could, because the more you ring, the more you make, right? The highest that I could meant that I had to be in a good mind frame of mind, there we go, and be able to help the other 10 bartenders that I was working with achieve our goal for the night, which was, 20% of our drawer sales and tip money. So, things change. You start having sips here and there. You start, Jägermeister, not to blow up any brand by any means, but we were going through 27 cases of Jaeger a week at this place, and that was on average. I would say the staff probably drank 7 of those a week. I mean, it was, and somehow the COGS were still under 20%. So it was a machine of a place, and um, I understood really quickly the different slopes that you could end up sliding on, and trying to figure out how to navigate being as sober as possible in that type of um, age, in that era, in that space, in that business model, and also having fun while you're doing it. So I don't know about you, but I started seeing some of my friends flip into other things, and a lot of us did at that point. And luckily, some of us caught wind of it and figured out this probably isn't the best thing. So when you started in San Francisco in '99, like late '90s, we'll just call it, what were some of the different things that you were seeing your colleagues do that maybe you took note of that helped you navigate your own space?
Well, so if it was a DJ gig that I was at, we would go through gallons and gallons of Red Stripe. I don't know why we drank so
Oh,
much
wow.
Red Stripe, but
Right.
it was Red Stripe. And then working in the service industry, me and my chef friends, because I was working in front of the house, they were back of the house, we'd all kind of go over after the shift. Well, the biggest consumptor in San Francisco was Burnett. We just
Oh, wow.
started,
Yeah.
it was always on the back bar. Nobody measured it. Nobody cared. It was lost. It was a lost spirit on most bars. So we could get away
Okay.
with drinking that during shift, similar to Jaeger. It's got that minty, so you can't really smell it on somebody's breath, but it just kind of slid into that. And then, yeah, some people go the imbibing route with drugs. Some people kind of stick with alcohol, and some people kind of go, whoa, pump the brakes. I don't want to drink anymore. And then at that time, it was really, really frowned upon if you weren't drinking.
Yeah.
You got made fun of. And at that time in the clubs, all you had was soda water. There was nothing but soda water, and a lot of times we would like, oh, it's a market tonic, it's a this and that. And it's like, well, it's not. There's no fruit in there, type thing. Like, you're really going to shoot fruit from this bar or this club? No. I mean, like, that's kind of where I saw it going. And I was a late adapter in the music industry that kind of wanted to pump the brakes before a set or something like that. So.
I mean, I wouldn't say that any of us went completely sober back then, and you're not lying. And I do want to bring up how fucked up it is that we made fun of each other for not getting screwed up. I mean, I still think about people and how they judge the bang of a buck for most spirits. Most people will still say, I like X, Y, and Z brand because it's X proof. And I'm like, but does it not taste like splinters? Like what do you... Wow. Why?
Exactly.
What is the hype that we've built as marketing machines that made you go, oh, I like that 149 proof bourbon better than this 94, 96 proof bourbon because it's like drinking a double hopped IPA, like it just destroys your palate, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely crazy to me that we value a spirit by how messed up it'll get us, and we do this with a lot of reward models. It's kind of nuts. But getting back over to the music thing, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I would love to hear
No,
you
but it's
expand
funny
on
you
that.
say that because some friends of mine that we were all involved in the music scene at that time together, DJing and dancing and art. Well,
Yeah.
we were at a barbecue not too long ago. We realized what we were drinking now versus what we were drinking then. We had the same amount of money in our pockets. Yet we would just grab whatever across the bar, or, we were drinking. I don't like to drop brands, but,
Right.
I'm not going to drop any brands. But we were drinking not the greatest agaves. Well, now we're sipping some of the greatest agaves. We had shit palates back then. We didn't care. We were just like, let's get fucked up. Let's have fun. We're DJing. Let's cause a ruckus. I would DJ set sometimes in the middle of my set. I would throw in my cocktail in the crowd because I was playing hypey music and people were getting hypey. And I thought I was being funny. No, I was pissing off the sound guy. I was pissing off the club. I was pissing off the person that took the drink to the face or the head or got their clothes dirty. And then at the end of the set, I walked out of there thinking, oh, I had a great old time. But wait, why am I not getting booked? Wait,
Wow.
why
Yeah.
aren't I playing this party anymore? What? The music was great. Oh wait, it was me. It was my attitude towards people. Like the sound guy would come up and tell me to turn it down. I was turning it up. Well,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
now as I grew, I'm thinking about it. Wait, I was ruining that guy's speakers by doing that. Oh, what an asshole I am. I'm still friends with all these people, but we all kind of came back together and we're like, well, okay. But when I realized that back then is I took a step back and was like, wait, I'm not getting booked. What do I have to change about myself to get booked by this promoter again? Because this promoter now moved from this small club to this giant venue. And I want to play this
Yeah.
party. I want to play this place. How do I get in there? Well, I had to stick my tail between my legs and go in and be like, hey, I'm back. I'm here. I had to have them see me at their events, but not see me trashed. Because
Yeah.
in the music industry, and especially DJ culture, whether it is back then or it's now, you support your promoter and your promoter will support you. It's a lot of times the promoter supports their friends more than bringing in new artists, but that's not this discussion. But a promoter will always support who supports them and bring that talent in if they're seeing the support locally. So I had to make sure that I was out and about, but I also had to make sure that I was out and about and not making an ass of myself. Because there are
Gotcha.
10, 15, 20, 30. At that time in San Francisco, you couldn't throw a rock without hitting a DJ.
I had no idea.
Now you can't throw a rock without hitting a photographer in San Francisco or an influencer.
I'd
But
say that in most cities at this point. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
but back then, it was such a underground music hub at that time. You could walk down the street and you would end up in a party hearing some music that you walk out and the sun's up. That was how magical that scene was at that time. You would go from one club to an underground to there and there. You may hit 3 or 4 different things in one night. And it amazes me how underground music has evolved to above ground, I guess you would say. But I really feel like some cities, states, and environments should really re-embrace that underground, that environment, because I think it would curb the style of music today, but it would also show people that you don't have to, because a lot of those places didn't have bars. So people would be having a good time without alcohol,
Right.
even without drugs. They
Yeah.
would still be having a good time grooving, but you can kind of, I guess it all blends together to where we are today. But I think that environment you get when you're in an underground, and I'm not meaning you have to go underground, but when you're in
Right.
an underground event, the vibe and the energy in that room creates itself.
I'm going to date us both real quick because I have a feeling I know that there's a lot of rave stuff starting to resurface, and there's a lot of soda raves or day raves, and
Yeah.
a lot of the kids, I'm sure that, or not kids, but the younger folks that are listening to this might have an idea of it because they've seen movies like Go, or they've seen Hackers, or all these relics of flicks from back when you and I were young.
Groove.
These things were, grooves, jungles, like going up to the Electric Factory in Philly, like all of these like different aspects of communal experience. Honestly, you're bringing
Yeah.
people together to enjoy a common bond, which is music. It's one of the great equalizers, just like food and drink are. And when we were young, these things were all forgive the pardon the pun, but the rage or the rage.
Yeah.
They were blessed for us to go and let loose and be non-judgmental. And I think that's it's kind of crazy to even think about this, because while you were talking, you described mindful consumption before it was a thing. Before we had a non-alcoholic spirit, before we had non-alcoholic wine, there was still some non-alcoholic beer. I'm not really sure I'd call it beer. I'd probably call it more of a bottled or canned dimethyl sulfate derivative. But it was it was there, right? Might have tasted like cardboard, but it was there. But before any of this stuff existed, we were already cognizant of, I'm seeing other people slip. I might need to cut back a little bit. And I've had my therapist in the past tell me, like, dude, you're an alcoholic. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because I only have 7 drinks a week. No,
Yeah.
I get it now, right? Like I've slowed down consumption model to where I'm probably consuming maybe one a week, if that. And it's not because I want to; it's because my medical disposition at the moment tells me I have to. So I have to be
Mm.
mindful of it. But back then, you had
Yes.
the wherewithal to go. You had the wherewithal to go. I am acting up. I am doing things that's hurting my own brand. I'm doing things that, if I'm traveling with a group, like if you're part of a DJ collective, like you're then the bad apple in that collective, and you're
Mhm.
causing problems for others in the collective. And you had the wherewithal to go, shit, I need to be seen in public, not intoxicated, hanging out and being present so that I can readjust my branding so that I can get back on the stage. And it
Yeah.
takes self-awareness to do that. And I think we're in this crazy age right now of everyone's becoming self-aware. Everyone's like kind of waking up to things they've done. Saying if you're a traditional imbiber and you're drinking 5 to 7 drinks a week, that's none of my business. That's what you do. That's what you enjoy. We're just trying, the no and low movements are trying to give you better options for when you decide to slow down, right? We're trying to give you better
Yeah.
options. If you choose to quit, you can still enjoy something tasty when you're out with your friends, having that communal experience. And I think that as DJ culture, because it's becoming a thing again, it's not that it ever went away. I mean, you always had your Tiestos, you've always had your Guettas, you've always had uh, your Dead Mouse, like all of these other mega artists, and even the local scenes never fully died. But I feel like we're entering another era of EDM right now, with things like Sandstorm happening and these mega festivals again. Um, how do you think that the cannabis consumption lounges change the no and low aspect? And will those lounges change music culture at all?
Well, it's if you can imbibe with cannabis indoors. I mean, remember, a lot of cannabis consumption is smoking, and in most cities and
Yeah.
states, you can't smoke indoors. There
Yeah.
was a club in San Francisco that San Francisco, California was one of the first to kind of adapt to no smoking. So there
Right.
was a club called it was on 6th Street called Club Six. It was one of the best venues. I mean, I saw Two Live Crew in the basement there, seeing some of the best
What?
acts I played there. But the only place you could smoke in there, they had a hallway that was behind a wall behind the DJ booth that you could smoke, but everybody crammed into there, or you had to go out into the alley on 6th Street. Now, anybody that's familiar with San Francisco, hanging out in the alley on 6th Street at 2 a.m., you're gonna see some stuff.
Right.
We'll save the stuff that I've seen in front of that club or at that club out in that alley for another day. But it's
Right.
we all kind of pushed our way to that back room so we could smoke there. But as a performer, an artist, I learned that I do enjoy cannabis, but I can't smoke too much cannabis before a set because I
Then
get
you
too
can't do
stoned
your
and I get in
set.
my own head. And
Right.
a lot of what I've learned over the time, there's a lot of math when you're DJing. There's a lot of counting going on. You may not see it, but most artists that are performing on the fly are counting between tracks. They're watching numbers. It's in their head. It's like one of the other features that they're doing in that booth. We call it laptop face, but that's why a lot of people put the laptop to the side because otherwise you're going to sit there
Gotcha.
and stare. But
Gotcha. That explains
CDJs have
some
time
videos.
code on it.
Uh,
That you have that time code there, and I never really did that in the past, but then when I was with one of my DJ partners, he and I used to do a lot of back-to-back sets where we would switch off in between. He
okay.
taught me to look at the time versus I was always used to using my ears and counting the beats. So if your eyes are screwed up, if your head's screwed up, you will lose track of what's going on and you'll miss your cues. That could result in a train wreck. That could result in a bad sequence into a new track. When you do that, then the crowd looks at you like, what's going on?
Mm.
When I started in music as well, the average track was 7.5 minutes long. That's a piece of vinyl. Do you know what the
Okay.
average track is now? 2.5
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, I was going to say
That
probably under
means
3 minutes.
you have to be mixing at about a minute and a half. So
Wow.
take that and a DJ set is usually about 50 to 60 to 100 records, depending on how fast you mix. If you're a slow mixer, you're looking at 50, but again, that you're going to lose people because you're mixing slowly. There's a lot of build-ups and breakdowns. You're riding the brakes. You're not taking them on the proper journey. Now, if you're mixing like some of the big guns, like you mentioned earlier, your Tiestas, your Guettas, your, you know, Dead Mouses, those guys have got that timing down, the way they sequence their sets. But the average DJ out there isn't mixing at that level that they are. They aren't playing so many sets that they have that kind of dialed in. They're playing once a week, sometimes twice, 3 times a week, and they're always changing. I'm not to say that the Guettas and the Tiestas and all of them are changing their sets as much, but when I was buying records and digging records, every day I got a new record, and every week when those record shipments came in and I went to the record shop to pick them up, I would be trying to throw those into the set. Or if somebody sent me some unreleased stuff that they wanted me to check out, if I liked that, I would have to cut that to vinyl. Then I'd have to put that in my set. Now that I have that $30 piece of vinyl that I had cut, I get 60 plays out of that. I'm going to play that all 60 times and try and stretch that. But I have to make sure it's always going to write in. So you really got to watch your math. You got to have your head in the game. And that's why I think you see now a lot of the biggest artists out there are not drinking at all, or they are drinking it on out, or they've embraced that culture. And it's funny, I looked this up before our call. The top 10 DJs in the world are all sobers.
What? Are you serious?
Yes. Yep.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess, like, even hearing you talk about
Again,
this, like, I've dabbled in this kind of stuff in the past, but I don't really understand it. Like, I'm not inclined in that creative outlet. I'm kind of physical and visual creative. It's a lot of mental gymnastics, man. Like, that's like going to like a mental gymnasium war. Like, that is crazy. And I can't even imagine.
it's
Like, I know what happens in my head after one glass of champagne now. Like, I can't even imagine trying to get up and count numbers past 2 glasses. Like, it couldn't happen. So like, to be at that level, you've got to change. Wow.
Yeah, it comes as second nature, but it's funny as I've gotten older, I've realized and seen some of my friends and cohort DJs, we all had ADHD. We all had these disorders that we didn't know about until we got older and said, hey, we got to go. What's going on in my head? What's going on with me? And doctors kind of said, no, you have this. Or they diagnosed us and our parents didn't want us on medication when we were a kid, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are outlets that I found I was able to kind of, whoa, I've got myself some inner peace now. I can't play guitar because something from here to my left hand, my fingers go whatever way they want to, but I can count beats and I can hear parts of music that sound differently. And my grandfather once told me, I may have told you this, he said, don't do what other people are doing. Why do you want to play guitar? Do you want to play? Do you think you're going to be the next Jerry Garcia or Jimi Hendrix? They've already been there. What are you going to do? What's something you can do? Well, he got the biggest kick out of watching me mix records one day. He's like, you're taking that guy's music and that guy's music and making your own music. And I was like, you told me not to be a follower, Grandpa.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. And now you're a leader in multiple spaces.
Yeah, and what did he give me for Christmas that year? He bought me another turntable. Did I need one at that time? No. Was it one that I could use to DJ with? No, but what it was that hooked to my laptop and I could digitize my music that was on vinyl. So that year I spent all my off time. I'm going to put all my records into a hard drive because I use a laptop now instead of carrying a crate of music around, so I can have all the vinyl now saved. And so,
yeah. You know who else has all the vinyl saved? All the vinyl in all the world. Liars Non-Alcoholic. They have all the vinyl saved from what I hear down under. So this is a moment where we're going to take a break, have a word from Liars Non-Alcoholic. They are powering the entire first season of Tail Feather. I'm Nick Crutchfield. He's Rob Nesta. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Liar's non-alcoholic pink spritz.
I taste the world through rose-colored glasses.
Delicious. Stay spirited. Make it a Liar's.
All right, welcome back, all you songbirds out there. You're listening to Tail Feather with Nick Crutchfield and Rob Nesta. We are talking about music and the intersectionality of two great equalizers, the music industry and drinks. So you don't have to share a common language is what an equalizer is, right? So sports, music, art, spirituality, stuff like that. I don't have to share a language with you to enjoy it with you. Today we're focusing on the music industry and the intersection with the no and low movements. And we've had a pretty good discussion so far in regard to how DJs are essentially mental gymnasts, and they understand how to, they're masters at counting numbers to make sure the music syncs correctly and that the audience stays engaged. It's crazy to me how all this stuff, almost everything goes back to math somewhere. I really wish I would have paid better attention in school because it all goes back to math in some way, shape, or form. And it's not my strongest subject unless we're doing like stuff on the fly that you do as a bartender every day, right? Like 319 minus 186 equals X, Y, and Z, right? I think we're going to take the time to get into more of the music side, maybe the back of house part of it. Like front of house would be the performer, the stage over to the bars, but back of house is how things operate and the green room and the facility itself, right? A lot of my background's in facility management. I get it. And one of the things I did not expect for the no and low movements, especially after working in it the past 2 years, is that venues are adopting these movements really quickly. And it's kind of a pretty cool signifier of how things become mainstream, right? So if you think about like high fashion over the course of 3 years trickles down into everyday fashion. Elements of it. So like if you think about like the vegan movement, it trickled down into the mainstream restaurant scenes. And now we're looking at no and low consumption models starting to trickle down into mainstream restaurants. And that's a signifier through the adoption from venues. What is your outlook, your observation? That's the word I'm looking for. What is your observations of venues in the area in which you reside and how they're adopting the no and low models and what that does for business inside of these places?
So I think that's a great question because what I've seen happen is it actually kind of went a little opposite. Restaurants and bars picked it up faster than venues did. And venues waited until they saw it on writers and they were having to put this product in the green room for the artists. Whether it just art, because more and more artists now are non-alc or low-alc or, it went from having bottles of vodka to bottles of fine wine to now you have, I want bottles of non-alc spirits, or I want these low sugar sodas or these low sugar drinks. Because again, the artists post, and I want to say this is happening prior to the pandemic. Most artists now are very, as we talked earlier, cognizant of their brand. My brand represents this. We've seen some of the greatest DJs in the world, DJ AM. He lived a sober lifestyle. He had a drug addiction. He got off the drugs, but he was still drinking alcohol. Then he passed away of a drug overdose. A lot of people took that into account and said, wait, whoa, we're going to shift our gears this way. This is our brand. I want to perform these venues. I want to do this. But again, the generations that are coming in now are different than my generation, the generation before me, the generation that just came out from me, millennials. I don't know what we call these new geners, but they don't drink.
Yeah, they're called alphas. Don't ask me how or why, but they're called alphas. Well,
but they don't drink.
I hope they don't take that to heart.
Yeah. They don't drink, or they don't know that the person before them was drinking heavily, and that's why they don't drink now. So when I was mentioning earlier the top 10 artists that have gone to a non-alc, a lot of people really look at their personal headspaces and they got in touch with their mental awareness. And that mental awareness led into, I'm going to live this type of lifestyle. Some, you look at DMC, from Run DMC, he's not alcoholic. The gentleman was
I saw
drinking
an
a lot,
interview with
but but he doesn't drink anymore. You know, one of my favorite musicians in Austin, he's in a honky tonk band. His drummer didn't drink, the rest of the band drank. Now the lead singer doesn't drink either. And he's he loves his lifestyle now, but he still loves to perform. The venues now have to get that product in there for them to have so they can have it. Otherwise, they're going to be bringing it in. Well, when the guy in the crowd or the woman in the crowd or they in the crowd sees them drinking this, oh, do you have this at the bar? That's amazing. I wanted one of those. I didn't know they had that. They can go ask for it. You know, it's really great to see. And DJ culture, DJ music, there's this big argument that it started in the UK or it started in Detroit and Chicago. But some of the non-alc trends and the sober trends and the low ABV trends, those started in the UK and have kind of bled their way over to the US. Well, one of the big things that I saw start, and this started, I think, in 2016, it's the first time I saw one of these, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but is the day rave. You know, you're starting your day out. It's like, and some of my friends have been part of these, and they bring their children to these. And as we get older, some people have children, and they want to bring their family into this lifestyle because they want them to experience it in that culture. But it's not all driven by sex, drugs, and alcohol anymore. It's driven by community. And I think that's what we really see people embrace with the low ABV and the music culture and the venues is that community is going to come in now. Now you're not just getting one or two people to come into your doors, you're getting a community of people to come into your doors. And I think that's why venues are being more apt to it. You look at Live Nation. Live Nation has Sober Nation. You look at
that's pretty cool.
Outside Lands. You look at some of your biggest nightclubs, whether it's Ibiza or Ibiza, or I don't know how to properly say it, whether it's The End in London or Fabric, whether it's 1015 Folsom in San Francisco, whether it's the Loft here in Houston, Texas, they have these options for people. When I go to the gym, my gym has this non-alc beer advert on the TVs every day that somebody's putting up, and it's not athletic, it's a different one. I'm like, that's super clever. They're marketing towards people that are fitness driven. Not buy one, have one for your friend. I'm like, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I try and sell it here when I was selling booze or not? Like, but you're seeing this now. Every type of venue is getting it. Disney's picking up on it. You got cruise ships picking up on it. When people were selling this into the industry or before, they weren't selling it on like, this could happen. People saw it. Now, people above me and the company I work with, they see all the numbers in the analytics and they go, look, see, we told you so, we told you so, we told you so. Well, that helps. But Jack or Jill or John or Benjamin down the street, they want to know where they go. They're going to see some fun stuff. I think that's really what's great when you see it at a venue or a festival nowadays.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up the festival thing. Because I was actually going to try to piggyback off of that because as the concert venues start to adopt, it's the same people that run festivals and concert venues nowadays, right? There's like 4 or 5 across the country that run about 90% of the venues. And these same companies run festivals, and you're starting to see these things get adopted into festivals. Like you'll see Liars at some places. You'll see some of their competitors at some places. And I think it's pretty cool, especially if you're in a different, like maybe Cali sober, it gives you an opportunity to have something different. Or if you're completely sober, it also gives you like, man, I feel seen, I feel heard. I can go to Lollapalooza and drink water to stay hydrated. But in between the waters, maybe have something like an Amalfi Spritz or something that's like one of my other favorite brands is Pathfinder. So maybe like a Pathfinder Spritz. with a non-alcoholic
Mhm.
sparkling. Like there's different options nowadays that us is interesting. And you brought up community and people wanting to experience these things together. And that's what festivals really are. It's not very often that you'll see a single person or just a couple spend 3 or 4 days at a music festival anymore. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 people get together, buy tickets, and go rent an Airbnb and go. Right. So there's
Mhm.
all these different marketing models that can happen. But the fact is that it's being adopted by mainstream. You hit the nail on the head because that performer's drinking something. I see it in the crowd, and I am going to expect that to be at the bar because if it's backstage, it's probably at the bar, right? Well, that's not real,
Mhm.
but yes. I mean, there's a band, one of my favorite rock and roll bands, one of the last great rock and roll bands. I'm not saying the last, but one of the last is Clutch. I absolutely love
Mhm.
Clutch. I'd never seen Strombo Cider before in my life, but the guitarist or bassist, I can't remember, that was always on his rider. And at the place that I worked, we're like, all right, we got to bring this in, find who the distributor is, bring it in. And he was drinking it on stage one night. And somebody from the crowd saw it, came over to the bar, and they're like, oh, we really like a Strombo. We're like, we don't sell it. And according to ABC Law in Virginia, if it's in the building, it's available in one part of the venue, it has to be available through the entire venue. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, I guess we're carrying Strombo now. And we did, and we sold a ton of it, right? So it's as easy as that sometimes. And then sometimes it's as hard as I've never had a Negroni. I don't know what this is going to taste like. Let me try a non-alcoholic one, and it's just completely lost on people. But I
Yeah.
do think that cocktails are going to be what really sets the world apart. The non-alc and low ABV movements apart are through the vehicle of a cocktail. Because there's a more interesting story. It's
Yeah.
not a one-note song. It's multiple chords. It's multiple bars. It's all being brought together to create something that's better than the sum of its parts. If that came out
Oh yeah. I
correctly,
mean,
I'm
I
not
think
100% sure it did.
I wish the RTD was invented. I thought of the RTD probably 2003 when I was
Yeah,
tired of getting drinks spilled on my shoes. I was like, we need to make juice box cocktails.
yeah.
This little straw, we carry this little straw in a cocktail glass to drink out of so we don't spill everywhere. Somebody needs to come up with that. And then it was funny when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden all these little juice box cocktails started popping up to go.
Right,
I was like,
right.
man, what did I do? And then I met a friend that I bartended with at a venue, and he was telling me this was before Krups or Keurig did their cocktail
Mhm.
machine that they made. He was telling me all about it, and this is in the techiest store in San Francisco. I was like, you need to stop talking about this out loud. Somebody's going to steal your idea. And then a few years
And
later, I
somebody
saw it,
did.
so I sent it to him, and he was just like, "Ah!" I was like, "You became too popular, Mike. You got on
Yeah.
national news because you returned $1,700 at Domino's delivered to you at Pizza Hut. Everybody knows your
Oh,
story now."
oh no. Oh
It's
no.
nuts.
Yeah, that's something else, man. I remember the pandemic hit and crowlers started popping up. Like you couldn't buy a crowler, just a can growler machine. Like you make the cocktail, put it in
Oh
the can,
yeah.
close the can up. You couldn't buy one of those machines for like 8 months. Like they just
Oh yeah.
the former company I worked
We
for
were.
started getting those and branding them. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I had a bartender that asked me to get him one or a bottling, like a soda bottling machine, because he wanted to create cocktails in a soda bottle, and
Yeah.
that would be your vessel for delivery. And I was just like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. We're a restaurant, I don't see it. We were a fast casual fine dining restaurant at the time. There's
Yeah.
really unique cocktails and a great program. That guy is now doing those cocktails at another venue, and I'm like, darn it, why did I not just bite into that and buy him the damn bottling machine?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's another thing I like about the low and no aspects, especially the low aspects, because you can, or actually either of them, honestly, 'cause either the no or low fit into this. Like you can get like swing top models, and you can pre-batch. I cannot believe I just said that word. I hate the word pre-batch. You can batch. I don't know what the hell pre-batch is. You can batch a drink. bottle it, and then if it's no alcohol, like most city parks, most federal parks are no alcohol, no
Yeah.
open container laws. You can bottle these
Yeah.
non-alcoholic aspects and take them to the picnic. You can take them to Yosemite and hang out. Like you can have you can, but you're not supposed to walk around with whatever.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
I
I
think
have a
there's
bunch of those little flasks. I have a bunch of those flasks from my VA days when I would bash
yeah,
cocktails for
yeah.
clients just so they could see and taste them. Well, what do I do now when I'm taking the kids to the beach or the park, or I may fill those up with something different? And I actually had a cop come up to me one day and go, "You can't drink that here," and I was like, "Yeah, I can." And they're like, "No, you can't have an open beverage container or alcohol here." I was like, "Not alcohol. This is completely zero proof." And he's like, "I don't believe you." And I was like, "Well, let's walk over to my car then. I'll show you." Because I actually had full bottles in there. And I showed him, this is
Ah,
this and this and this. And he's like, "Oh, all right. Well, just, put a sticker on it or something next time."
sitting over there
I
with a
was like, "I
metal
don't have a
flask.
label."
Oh,
Well, it
that's
was a
great.
glass one. So it was like a
Uh,
plain glass one. So he thought it was Taco vodka or something like that.
uh,
It's like, I'm here with my kids. I'm not a hobo.
right. Not
It is
attacking the
Texas. No,
hobo
you
world
can
by
be
any means.
drinking. No,
Right.
no, no. I'm sorry.
Uh,
And I'm in
uh,
Texas, so people
yeah.
drink anywhere and everywhere here. So
Yeah. Roadie there means a roadie there. It's very different.
yes.
Yeah. I lived in Texas for a
Sorry to
year
go
and
off
it
topic.
was, oh, you're fine. You're fine. It was great. Um, I guess this kind of segues into a really good spot to throw you on the grill, my friend. So we have
Okay.
this little section inside of the show where it's an impromptu question, and it's meant to make you think for about 5 seconds. You can't really think past that. I'll do that, do, and then we're done. And you answer
Okay.
in the most honest way you possibly can. So here, I'll give you 2 questions. Do you want one or do you want two?
I'll take two.
Okay, so the first one is going to
Almost a lot
be
for
super
punishment,
easy.
so.
First one's going to be super easy. It's one I ask a lot of our interviewees. It's last call. What is your final drink? It can be no, it can be low, it can be traditional. And what are you putting on the jukebox?
Last drink of the night is going to probably be a little bit of Fortaleza, if they have it on the bar, if not some sort of
Okay.
agave.
Okay.
And what am I putting on the jukebox? Phew, tough one. I have a list of these, but I'm going to go with Closing Time just because it cracks me up. And I used to love to throw that on when I would close
Yeah.
down my bar. That's how I signified get out.
Yeah. It's much better than what I did. I would do Disney show tunes, and everybody would be like, "What the hell are we doing?" And I'm like, it either caused people to sing or to leave. So one way or the
Yep.
other. All right, the next one is going to be a little harder. Any 2 songs that you want to transition to that are going to get people amped, that they're going to love, or maybe they're not amped. Maybe it's just something that's like, set the mood for me, and then tell me the 2 songs you're going to blend together to create that mood.
Okay, 2 songs that I'm gonna play together are. Give me 1 second. I actually have these listed here. So it's gonna be Key of Dreams and For Love of the Money.
Key of Dreams and Love of Money. Okay, what is that going to do to a crowd? Like, what's the desired outcome of putting those 2 together?
And it's a little bit of funk to get you up and out. I'm really,
Okay.
really into Motown and funk right now. So,
Right on.
like
Right on.
Be
I
Like
can
a
dig.
Woman by Nina Simone.
Yeah.
Heart's Desire by Don Blackman. There's
Damn.
too many
All right.
things. Me and My Baby Brother by War. So,
Okay. All right. I can dig that. I think I'm going to pair a American Malt and Cola with a shot of Coffee Originale into that drink.
there you go.
And that's what I'm sipping on while I'm listening to your blend, Mr. Rob Nesta. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. This is the point where I'm going to give the floor to you. You can tell us what you're up to, what you have planned, anything you got going on that you want to tell the world about. And then I will close the show out. So, Mr. Rob Nessa, the floor is yours to tell the world about what you're up to.
Yeah, what I'm up to now is I'm really digging in and exploring the world of Motown and funk and soul, like I said. So be on the lookout for a little bit of a. I'm probably going to start an online radio show here pretty soon where I'll be playing
Very
that.
cool.
Then I'm also going to go back to the roots. What got me into music in drum and bass, also known as jungle, but a lot of the old school style sounds, and bringing back that vibey dubstep sound. I'm not talking the dubstep that you hear where you see robots. It sounds like chainsaws running into each other. I'm talking like the early style of dub and reggae, that being implemented into electronic music. So you'll be on the lookout. You'll hear a lot of that. But if you want to check some stuff out, you can check out my Instagram profile, which is Robert Nesta. And Nesta is spelled N3STASF. And then also you can go check out my SoundCloud, which is linked from there. And I'll post the link in the chat on this once it goes public as well.
Right on.
Thanks, Nick,
Right
for
on. Well,
having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming. We'll hear from you on Tuesday this coming week. Folks, Songbirds, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Nick Crutchfield. He's Rob Nesta. That's a wrap. Put a feather in my cap. We are out of here. I'm going to go listen to some SoundCloud. I'm going to finish up some work. And then since the sun is broken in Seattle, I'm going to go explore a little bit and find the non-alcoholic bottle shop and go find some wonderful Liar's cocktails at a couple of the venues here in Seattle. Until
Cheers,
next
everyone.
time, people, live from the nest. See ya.
Alexa, show me how to make a cocktail without alcohol.
Sure.